Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Kirsten and this is our corner of the internet where we talk about books. Today's video is very exciting because we are talking about the extremely hyped up, talked about Book Talk book, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I'm super excited to talk about this book because I finally read it and so many people have been screaming about this book on the internet for I don't know how long enough. Well, obviously I had to read it to see, is it actually worth the hype? Is it actually something we should all be reading? So grab your coffee, let's chat about the book. I got my copy from the library. I'll start by saying what this book is about, just in case you have been living in a rock and you have no idea what it's about. So basically this book, we follow our main character, Violet, who has been training her whole life to be a scribe. Her dad was a scribe. He has passed away. Her mom is, I forget what it's called, but she's like the head of the rider quadrant, which rider quadrant meaning it's basically a squad of soldiers who ride dragons because each person is bonded to a dragon. Mother basically forces Violet to, instead of going into the scribe quadrant that she's been training for her whole life, forces her to go into the rider's quadrant where she is potentially going to die because she also has a chronic illness and is very small, weak, just not physically meant to be a soldier. And her mother basically forces her to go into it, and because her brother and her older sister have both gone through the school and have come out on the other side and bonded to dragons. Basically the whole premise of this is she goes into the school and is trying to survive all the tests and things that she has to go through to eventually maybe bond with a dragon. And even then, you're not guaranteed living. So that's what this whole book is about, and there is enemies to lovers, and I want to say, while the enemies to lovers portion is, in my opinion, a great portion of the book, it's not the whole thing. So if you're going into this thinking that it's an entire book basically just about Violet and this other main character going from enemies to lovers, that's not the case. I would give a rough percentage and say it's like 20 to 30%. Maybe 20% romance. I'm interested to see where the second book takes that. So don't go into this thinking you're just getting like fantasy romance. In this book, there is still some world building. There's still a lot of other stuff going on other than the romance. And a lot of the other stuff that's going on is a lot of fighting, of just violence in general. I felt like this book was really well done. It gives me the same sort of feelings as when I read The Hunger Games when I was younger. A lot of people also compare it to Divergent, which I don't think I ever read, so I can't speak to that. But honestly, so I said this in my other video, but it says on the front, the most brutally addictive fantasy I've read in a decade, and I can fully agree to that. It was so addicting. I think the only thing I want to mention is that in the beginning, it was a little bit slow for me just because in the very beginning, I was having trouble connecting with Violet, and I think it was because I immediately went from reading a book that I loved, and then I immediately started reading this. So you know when you finish a book that you're obsessed with and you haven't fully processed it, and then you try to jump into another book, it's hard to get started. That literally could have just been because of that, but if you are having a little bit of a hard time getting into this, I'd give it like 50 pages. Some things I love about this. Our main character, I love how she is not only badass and physically overcomes her weaknesses, not even overcomes them, but she is so intelligent that she finds workarounds for everything. And I love how Rebecca Yarros made her very smart and very strong. I just love when characters are more than one thing. In a lot of fantasy books or just books and movies in general, you're either the smart person or are the badass strong person. You're not necessarily both. For example, Selena in the Throne of Glass series, I love that she's just a complete badass, but she also loves looking good and like wearing pretty dresses and stuff like that. I love when they show how characters are multidimensional. With Violet's character, she's super book smart, but she's also just a complete badass, and she's also caring and isn't just a ruthless killer for no reason. I like her character. I'm excited to see where her character goes in the next book. And other things that I liked about this book, the relationships with the dragons. I love human animal, human fictional animal, fictional beast relationships. I love that the dragons like actually talk to their whoever they're bonded with, they can communicate with them. Well, they can communicate with anyone, but mainly they communicate with the person they're bonded with. And I love the dragons in this book. They are so funny. There are some moments where I actually laughed out loud. If I had to compare this book to any Taylor Swift song, 100% The Great War is this book. So I feel like listen to that while you read it. Also, this book ends on a huge cliffhanger, and I didn't guess it until I was we were right around where the bomb was dropped. I feel like I should have guessed it sooner, but I was so immersed in everything else that was going on and trying to piece other things together that I didn't fully piece the cliffhanger together, although you definitely could, I think, if you think about it. I think there are some aspects of almost found family coming together in here, but I think that's going to be a lot stronger in the second book in the series. So overall, I feel like I gave this book 5 stars because I think the writing was really well done. I think all the battle scenes and all the fighting scenes are really well done and really just like pull you in. And I feel like in some fighting scenes, I'm like, okay, just get to the part where we figure out who wins or loses. But I was really sucked in the whole time to this, and every single chapter ends with something where I'm like, okay, I need to keep reading. I feel like the pacing was pretty good. And I looked on Goodreads because I was like, when is the second book coming out? I need to know. And it says that it's coming out in November, but I don't know if that's real. So let me know if you guys know if that's real. It kind of sucks being the first to read the start of a series, especially one this good and with such a strong cliffhanger at the end, because now we have to wait. We can't just binge the whole series. Sit around in pain waiting for the next book to come out. Also, I'm trying not to give spoilers, so sorry this is a little bit all over the place. I also really love the relationship between like the enemies to lovers. I love how it progresses. I felt like it was pretty believable. I felt like it's such a nice way to show a healthy, or what could potentially be a healthy relationship, and a supportive partner who fully allows you to be you and wants you to be the best version of yourself, but isn't trying to change you in any way and is just fully supporting you rather than trying to hold you back or put you in a box and make you stay the way that you've always been, but rather allows you room to grow into yourself. Yeah, I really love how the relationships are laid out in this. The little speeches that we get from our male MC. This is one of the reasons why women love fictional men written by women. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because you meet this character within the first couple pages and you can tell already that she sucks. Violet's mom is, I do not like her at all, and I feel like she's the villain of the whole story. And I feel like she's gonna be the villain or one of the villains in the second book, and I'm wondering, are we gonna get a character arc for her where she redeems herself, or is she just gonna be a terrible character the whole time? All that to say, I do highly recommend reading this book. I think it deserves the hype. At the end of the day, it's just a fun, entertaining book to read. I mean, why do we read fantasy in the first place? To escape, and I feel like this is the perfect escape. It's so good. And if you don't like this book, that's fine. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it wasn't for you. If you have not read this book yet, I highly recommend getting it. Try getting it from your library or your local bookstore. I know they were sold out for a while, so I don't know how easy it is to get a copy, but if you can, I highly recommend this. I have now started reading a bunch of other popular fantasy books. I am currently reading The Serpent and the Wings of Night, so I will be doing a video on that soon. But in the meantime, I hope to catch you in one of my other videos. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I would love to hear what you thought of this book. So leave a comment below if you're planning on reading it, if you've already read it, or your other fantasy recommendations for me. Until next time, I will see you when I see you.